Week 6 recap, Thursday night football, week 7 preview. Let's get it.
Welcome to FaZe Fantasy Live with your host, Lonnie Z.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Lonnie Z. I am joined by Jake Hansen, and we're going to be recapping week 6 games and previewing the Thursday night matchup for this week 7. What's going on, Jake? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, Lonnie. How you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. So we had a busy week, and once again, the NFL is kind of crazy. It's kind of disappointing me. Let's get through some of these games. The first game on the slate, the Vikings and the Bears. Vikings come out with a victory, 19-13. But the big story in this game is that Justin Fields went down with an injury, and he's doubtful for this week. Basically, he's not going to play this week. They say doubtful, but he's not playing this week.
No, I don't think so.
It wasn't on either side. Nothing looked great. What was your take on it?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, neither side looked great at all. Once Fields went down, I mean, actually before Fields went down, he didn't look good at all. Chicago, I don't know what happened. Maybe Minnesota. They were a better team than the other two teams that they played because Chicago looked really bad. Kirk Cousins, he's struggling without JJ. He had 9 fantasy points. Madison had 11. Jordan Addison had 11, and KJ Osborne had 8. That's not bad for his first game being the starter. And then TJ Hawkinson was a big letdown to me. I know me and you talked, and we thought he was going to go off.
Right.
He had 11 points, and not as great.
Exactly.
Justin Fields, he had 5 points before he got hurt. Foreman, I thought he would have been a little bit better. He had 7. And DJ Moore was a big letdown with 10. But yeah, that game was pretty slow for me.
Yeah, I expected more scoring. I expected a lot more out of TJ Hawkinson too, man. It's kind of a letdown there. But the Vikings come away with the win. Fields, he hurt his thumb, and there's really no other than he's doubtful for this weekend's game. So we don't know how long he's going to be out or to what extent that is. All right. But yeah, the game was kind of just a real low scoring 19-13. Seriously, not a very good game there on either front. And so the next game on the slate was the Ravens and Tennessee. We thought this was going to be a tight game, and it kind of was. 24-16. The Ravens win. They moved to 4-2, and Tennessee's now 2-4. Lamar looked like he's been looking all year. 223 yards passing. He led them in rushing, 13 carries, 62 yards. And Andrews 4 for 69, no touchdowns. Flowers did get in the end zone for the first time in his career, which was kind of nice. But you can probably drop any running back that you have from the Ravens. I mean, why hold on to Gus Edwards or Justice Hill or any of those guys? What was your take on the game?
Yeah, for sure. Fantasy-wise, you can't have a running back from Baltimore right now. There's no way. Zay Flowers, they finally went for him, 8 targets, 17 fantasy points. Justice Hill, 6. Gus Edwards, 6. Lamar Jackson, 18 points. Mark Andrews, 10. Tennessee side, Malik Willis had 4. He had to come in for Tannehill, so Tannehill's out. I don't know if he's out for this week, but he got hurt last week. Derrick Henry had a good game, a lot better than I thought against the Ravens, man. 19 fantasy points. Right now going forward, I wouldn't be so high on Tennessee receivers. It's just tough right now. Westbrook Akani had 5. Hopkins had 3. It's just, I don't know, man. It's just so weird with the NFL right now. It's like there's no big action going on. Only, with Miami, and that's it. It's just like this game was the same thing, like Lamar Jackson, he's not looking as good as we all thought either. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah. FanDuel's really kind of difficult It's been real hard to predict who's going to do what because no one's doing anything that's normal. And unless you're on the Dolphins, no one's really scoring big numbers in FanDuel, or else it's someone you're never expecting to. So it's been kind of tough. I hope that it kind of levels out as the season, progresses. Washington and Atlanta, that was I rode with the home team on this one because I said Ritter had never lost, but we did say 2 weeks ago that ain't gonna last long in the NFL. He will get his first loss in his career, this season, a little sooner than I thought. You were all over Washington. You thought that Riverboat Ron had to save his job, and looks like he'll live to coach another day. 24-16, Commanders won. Hal was kind of a big story there. He had 3 touchdowns. He threw 3 touchdowns, only 151 yards, though, bro. 3 touchdowns. Brian Robinson again underperforms, man. 10 carries, 31 yards. You can't really run right now a Redskin running back out there at RB1. It's hard to even flex him right now. And Terry McLaurin starting to heat up a little bit. He had 6 receptions for 81 yards, which is a good sign if you're have Terry McLaurin. But once again, it looks like Drake London is starting to become who we thought he should be. Drake London is a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL if he's utilized. He had 9 receptions for 125 yards. He didn't find the end zone, but that's what he should be doing all the time. That kind of stuff. And then Algier led, 13 carries, 51 yards. What was up with Bijan? So once again, we said that this team was unpredictable, and they are. And Ritter, 3 interceptions, 2 touchdowns, 307 yards though. The 3 interceptions. What was your take?
Yeah, both Robinsons they weren't to be found. They were both a slow day for him. They both had 13 fantasy points. Desmond Ritter had 22 fantasy points. He threw 3 picks, but he still had 300 yards. That's not too bad. Drake London went off 24 fantasy points. Kyle Pitts and Jonah Smith 14, 13 fantasy points. So they're using the tight ends a lot. But Drake London, man, that was good. Finally, like we've been talking about. Sam Howell had 18 fantasy
Yeah.
points. Not bad for 151 yards.
Right.
Curtis Samuel, 14 fantasy points. Curtis Samuel is a guy. If he's on your waiver wire, I would pick him up for like a wide receiver, 3, 2 or 3, just to put in when there's a bye because he's been scoring. He's been getting. I think he's had like 3 touchdowns 3 games in a row, or he's been getting at least like 14 fantasy points 3 games in a row. So, and Terry McLaurin had 14, and Logan Thomas had a slow day with 1 fantasy point.
Yeah, and we thought Logan Thomas would have a better day because Atlanta's not good at that position. And once again, it just shows you it's whatever. But I do like Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts. On to the next game. It is the Cincinnati Bengals and the Seattle Seahawks. Now, that game ended up 13-17. The Bengals won. We were both on that game. We thought that the Bengals had to get it done, but it didn't look the way we thought. We thought Joe Burrow would really go off and start. He looked good the week before. We thought he was back, but this game shows he's really still struggling. I don't know if that injury is what's going on or what is the deal, but he only had 185 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an INT. Mixon had 12 carries for only 38 yards. Either the defenses in the NFL are really getting good against the run, or we just don't have any more elite running backs. And I mean, very little, you know?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Jamar Chase, 6 for 80. That's not bad. He's going to have some of these kind of games, but 6 for 80 is not bad. Tyler Lockett, he kind of had a good game for him. No touchdowns, but 6 for 94. And once again, Walker just falls into the end zone. 19 carries, only 62 yards, which is not a good average at all. But he had a touchdown. And Geno, 326 yards, no touchdowns, though, and 2 interceptions. It was an ugly game, but Cincinnati won. They're going into a bye. They needed that win. They needed that. We thought it was going to look different. We thought Cincinnati was going to roll them because they were starting to hit. But what was your take, man?
Yeah, but Geno Smith, I thought he he didn't have that great of a game, but I mean, I look back, he had 323 yards, but he had 2 picks, but he had 15 fantasy points. But, he hasn't looked as good as he did last year, you know? I mean, he's just doing what he can right now. It doesn't look nothing special this year, right? Um, Walker, 17 fantasy points, Tyler Lockett, 15. Yeah, DK Metcalf, man, his price has been dropping every week. I think he's overrated, man. Like, I think he's an overrated receiver, DK Metcalf. I
I
just
agree.
there's nothing there for me to I don't know. He had 10 targets, 4 catches, 10 fantasy points.
Think he's too worried about what his hair color is going to be.
Yeah, and how big he is.
Right.
Joe Burrow, slow day, 14 fantasy points. Joe Mixon, yeah, like you said, there's nothing there. Nothing. 9 fantasy
Yeah.
points. Tyler Boyd had a big game for 16 fantasy points, and Jamar Chase, 14. And he had 13 targets, Jamar Chase, and Irv Smith Jr., 1 point.
Other than Chase, Cincinnati is scaring me right now. If I had Joe Burrow, I'd be a little nervous about that still.
Mhm.
And Chase is the only one you're going to really be like, okay, he can have a big game. And on the other flip side, yeah, DK can have a game and Tyler Lockett can, but no one on that side really scares me either. And the rookie really they haven't got him in the game plan very much, Jackson Smith and Jiba. Indianapolis and Jacksonville, 37-20. Jacksonville got the win. I thought the Colts would play them a little tougher and come out of that one, but they didn't. Trevor Lawrence, 20 of 30, 181 yards. That's really not much. He did have 2 touchdowns and a pick. And Minshew had 329 yards, but he threw 3 interceptions. I mean, wow, 1 touchdown. He threw it 55 times, bro. We thought that would really help Pittman,
Mhm.
and it did. 9 receptions for 109 yards, but he didn't score a touchdown. He didn't get in the end zone. And Zach Moss, 7 carries for 21 yards. On the other side, Christian Kirk had only 3 receptions for 49 yards, and ETN 18 for 55 and 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns is what's the cool thing. The average is not good at all. But we said that we thought that freaking Calvin Ridley had to really get involved. Man, he only had 4 receptions on 8 targets for 30 yards. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know. We paid a lot to get Calvin Ridley this year on our team, 3rd-round pick, and he's just not performing. And Jonathan Taylor on the other side, we thought Taylor was going to eat. Well, they only rushed the ball between those 2 guys 15 times. Taylor had 8 for 19 yards. Is he just freaking figuring it out again or what? Or were they just overmatched? What was your take on this game, bro?
Yeah, on that about talking about that, they passed the ball to their running backs a lot. Zach Moss and Taylor had 6 receptions for Moss, 5 receptions for Taylor, and that's a lot for those guys, man. So I don't know if they, yeah. So
Yeah,
I don't know
13
if they're
targets
just
between the 2.
they can't figure out the run game or what, with Taylor coming back. But Minshew, he threw like crazy, 300 yards, but he only had 16 fantasy points. Zach Moss had 17, Taylor 11. Michael Pittman Jr., he got what we thought, 22 fantasy points. Josh Downs did get a touchdown. He had 13. And Keelan Granson had 9 fantasy points. I like Keelan Granson. He's been getting consistent more and more every week. I've been watching him. And then Trevor Lawrence, he got hurt, but he did finish the game. But he got 15 fantasy points. Jacksonville's offense does not look as powerful as it did last year, and they have Ridley this year too. So I don't know what they're doing. Etienne Jr. 23, Christian Kirk 13 fantasy points, Calvin Ridley 6, and then Evan Ingram 11, and Brenton Strange 10. Yeah, Jaguars, they pretty much dominated the whole game. There was nothing with the Colts, honestly. And then Anthony Richardson is out for the whole year. He's done.
Yeah. Yeah, so I just dropped him in my league. I think I have to drop him in another league too. But yeah, that's unfortunate for him. He was off to a great start. Trevor Lawrence did hurt his knee, and he's questionable for this Thursday night game against the Saints. So we'll have to monitor that. That's tomorrow because we're doing this podcast on Wednesday night, a day later than we normally do it. But yeah. So Trevor Lawrence, man. Hopefully he'll be okay and be good to go. because CJ Beathard, next man up. CJ Beathard. But yeah, really non-eventful, non-eventful game. Uh, the next game on the slate is the Carolina Panthers and the Miami Dolphins. Okay, so in daily fantasy, if you're not stacking your team, with the Dolphins, you're gonna have trouble. You're gonna be really guessing to find someone to score you some points. And we said that this game should be a blowout. We said it shouldn't be. And at first, it looked like Carolina was gonna play them tough. But it's just like the Dolphins could just turn the switch on, man, and just start scoring like a video game. 42-21, Tua, 3 touchdowns, 262 yards, no interceptions. Mozart still doing his thing. 17 carries for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. Man, Mike McDaniel, bro. And I know you're kind of apprehensive about Mozart, but I think he's making us all more of a believer
Mhm.
now. It's that system, bro. Mike McDaniels knows how to get running backs loose. I mean, he really does. His schemes are great. And Tyreek is really trying to get that 2,000. 6 receptions, 163 yards, and a touchdown. On the other side, there's Chuba Hubbard. We did mention Chuba, 19 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. That's not bad, man, for that team. And Bryce Young, 217 yards, a touchdown. But Adam Thielen was the thing. And we had
Mhm.
mentioned Thielen. We said he was the one, right?
Yep.
11 receptions, 115 yards, a touchdown. He's showing the NFL, hey, I still got some in the tank. He's looking good. He's looking good. What was your take, man?
It was a close game at first, like you said. It was a close game, but then it went south. But Bryce Young, 12 fantasy points. Chuba Hubbard, 16. We we looked at him. We almost used him. Adam Thielen, I'm a little bummed by that one. I uh, I liked him a lot that game. 31 fantasy points, but wouldn't did nothing anyways. And then if you didn't have Tua and nothing like that, you weren't going to do nothing. So, especially when you have Justin Fields on your team. Uh, Tua, 22 fantasy points, 3 touchdowns. Raheem Mostert, 37. Salvin Ahmed, 12. Tyreek Hill, 31. Waddle, he did all right. 18 fantasy points. He had a touchdown and nothing from the tight ends. Yeah, that game, we knew that was going to happen, so nothing really crazy there.
Uh, One last thing on Waddle. I still say for daily, just keep throwing him in there. He's getting you 18 or whatever, and
Mhm.
he's gonna boom one of these games. But I'm kind of thinking, man, that McDaniel is really scheming Tyreek up even more so to big plays. And they're just hitting on him. They're just connecting on him, because Waddle should have already had a big game by now, and he hasn't. He's been very consistent, but I'd expect a 25, 30-point game out of him every now and then too, and it just hasn't happened.
On the Panthers side, I didn't mention a couple things, keep playing Thielen, but like on the tight end side, Hayden Hurst, we keep having a hope.
Yeah,
Me and Lonnie, when we're all having hope. Hayden Hurst, drop him. He's they're not using him no more. They're not using him. So Adam Thielen, just
exactly.
keep playing him on daily fantasy. Keep playing him on your redraft league. That's the only Panther I would, and Chuba. Just
Yep.
it's just based on matchup though for Chuba, to be honest.
Yeah. 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 The next game on the slate is one you called. Well, you didn't call it, but you knew that this could happen. Niners, Browns, 19-17. The Browns come away with the win. Niners get their first defeat of the season. It's kind of an ugly game, man. I just think you had two good defenses playing each other, and it looked like that. I think the league is so enamored with the 49ers and their tough defense, the Cowboys and their defense, that Cleveland kind of flies under the radar a little bit. But all their numbers say that they're a really, really good defensive team, man. And they showed it. They showed it. I know McCaffrey went out. He got hurt with the oblique, and Debo went out. So that does really affect the 49ers for sure. Jordan Mason came in and did a serviceable, job, but that Cleveland defense is tough. Purdy, he did everything he was supposed to do to put him in the position to win. because you text me, well, another buddy of mine text me from California. He was like, "Hey, we'll see what Purdy's made of now on this drive," and he got him down there, man.
Yeah, he did what he had to do.
Yeah, he did. And I hate to be the one to say this, but you're not gonna like this. When we were watching the game, bro, you know how sometimes you just get these feelings when you're watching
Mhm,
football, and
mhm.
Devin, my son Devin, was like, "Oh, this is money. He's got this." And I said, "Wide right." And I just felt it, bro. I just felt he was gonna miss wide right, and I feel bad about that because the Niners should have won that game. But sometimes you have to lose some like this to really get you tough. Um, yeah. What was your take on the game, man?
Yeah, it was just a tough one. Like I said, it was gonna be defense, man. It was just gonna be a defensive game. It was tough. Purdy did what he had to do, like you said. It sucks when you lose because of field goal, missed field goal. There was a big late hit or a personal foul on a roughing penalty or whatever against a receiver. I don't know. It was just a bunch of stuff. But like I had a feeling. It was a tough defense. When you lose your two best players, one of your two best players or two of your best players, it's hard. I don't care if it's Brock Purdy or Mahomes. If Mahomes lost Kelsey and Pacheco at right in the beginning of the game, it's going to be tough. I don't care who it is. But both defenses, I give the Browns a lot of credit, man. A lot of credit. They played tough. Brock Purdy 8 points, McCaffrey 14 before he got hurt, Mason 8, Brandon Ayuk 11, George Kittle 1. Amari Cooper 17, Kareem Hunt 16, Jerome Ford 11. Jerome Ford had 84 yards rushing. PJ Walker 5 and Njoku had 5. So yeah, that was just a tough game. I just had a bad feeling about it. Coming off a win like that against Dallas. Hey man, I give the credit to Browns defense. They won the game for him.
Kareem Hunt, he had 12 carries, 47 yards, which isn't great, but he did get it in the end zone, had a touchdown, and he also had 3 receptions for 24 yards on 3 targets. So a lot of people are flocking saying, "Oh, I have to go get Kareem Hunt." And if you put him on your roster, that's fine if you need some help with the running back position, but that definitely was his best game of the season so far. New Orleans 13, Houston 20. Now this game kind of went I thought that Houston would get the win here, and we're not too excited about either one of these teams. CJ Stroud kind of underachieved a little bit for himself, 199 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he finally threw his interception. He had gone all these games without an interception. He had the longest streak of any rookie without throwing an interception to begin his career, and he finally got picked off. Derek Carr had 353 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He threw the ball 50 times though. And then Kareem Hunt, they fed him the rock, 19 carries for 68 yards, no touchdown. And Devin Singletary, he led the Houston in rushing, which was surprising to me. He had 12 carries for 58 yards. I don't know, man. Damian Pierce just does not look good. We keep waiting. That's another guy we keep waiting for, right? We keep thinking, maybe. Nah, no, no, man. I mean, he's almost droppable. You're not gonna
Right.
drop him, but you feel like shit. If I dropped him, who would
I
care? Who's gonna pick him? I don't care. I think you have to put him on your bench and see if they can just figure it out.
Yeah.
And then on the receiving side, Olave, he looked pretty good. 7 receptions for 96
Yep.
yards. Taysom Hill had 7 receptions for
Yep.
49 yards. He really played that tight end role in this particular game. Nico Collins only was 4 receptions for 80 yards, which is not bad on 6 targets. What was your take on the game, man? It's kind of a whatever game.
Yeah, I thought Houston would win that game. Carr had, he had one of his better game. I mean, well, with the yards wise, 353 yards. He had 20 fantasy points, so his shoulders probably, looks like he's getting better. Taysom, Taysom Hill had 12 fantasy points. Alvin Kamara, I look at it slow. He had 17 fantasy points, but Rashid Shaheed, he he finally showed up. He had 18, and Chris Olave had 16, and Michael Thomas had 9. Foster Moreau, he had 7. So he's been getting more and more targets too. The tight end there. CJ Stroud, slow game, 15 fantasy points. Yeah, Devin Singletary. I wonder if Miko just said, "Hey, let's just see what he could do," because he's a little more quicker, more agile. He could catch more in the backfield and all that. So he had 7. Pierce had 3. Yeah, it's just like you can't use him no more. You can't even play him no more until he does something. It's yeah, it's getting really bad there. Nico Collins had 12, and Robert Woods, he didn't have a great game. I thought he would have been a lot better, but he had 7 fantasy points. Dalton Schultz again, consistent, 16, 16 fantasy points. I like that. I'd like him too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you
So
liked him. Yeah, kind of uneventful game. It was kind of what it was. This next game, the Raiders and the Patriots. We said run any team that's playing against the Patriots out there for defense. Well, I don't know if this classified for that, but the Raiders did get the win. We've been talking for a few weeks about Belichick maybe losing his connection or whatever. I was watching a Boston their area sports show the other day, and they don't think he's going to be back next year with that team. Now they're not saying he's going to retire, but they're thinking that they're not going to bring him back, which I'd be surprised. But I've never seen a Patriot team look this bad in the 20 years that I've been watching Belichick. You know what I'm saying? This is really surprising. Even the year after Brady left, they were better than this. The game itself, Garoppolo, 162 yards, touchdown, interception. Josh Jacobs, they keep giving him the rock, man. 25 carries, but only 77 yards. You expect 25 carries, him to at least get 100, but it's better than it was. And then I think Mayer was their leading receiver, 5 receptions for 75 yards, which kind of surprises me. Stevenson, 10 carries for 46 yards, still nothing in their running game. He did get in the end zone. Kendrick Bourne, 10 for 89. So Bourne, now everyone's back on Bourne again. Don't get back on Bourne. Don't get on any of these, these receivers from the Patriots. I did see something funny, something kind of comical. Ezekiel Elliott had like a 6-yard run and he started doing the feed me thing. Like he's like, it's like, bro, come on, calm down, bro. You're washed up.
yeah.
Don't give me the feed me, the little, feed me. Yeah, bro. That ain't happening. Devontae Adams, man, 2 receptions. That's all he had was 2 receptions. And he's had his shoulder though. His
Yeah.
shoulder's hurt, and he's limited in practice this week, and so he's questionable for the up and coming game. That can be a big blow if he's not able to go for them, bro.
Big time.
Yeah. What was your take?
Patriots is bad, huh? Patriots is just man, watching the Patriots just like, and I don't even know why they still have Mac Jones in. Just try, why don't they play Zappy one? Just start him from the beginning. Mac Jones 6 fantasy points. Stevenson stats don't look too good, but he did score 18 fantasy points. Finally, got in the end zone. It seems like Ezekiel had 11. Kendrick Bourne had 10 receptions. 19 points. And their tight end, their best tight end was Jaceki with 5 fantasy points. Hunter Henry, 1 point. So nobody from New England. It's pretty rough right now. Like Stevenson was a good pick in the rounds. That we for our daily or for our redraft leagues, and he's just not showing up at all. It's been pretty bad on the New England side for anybody for fantasy. Jimmy Garoppolo had 9 before he got hurt. Josh Jacobs, 11 fantasy points for 25 carries, 11 fantasy points. Whew, that's not good at all. Jacoby Myers, 17 fantasy points. He's been really consistent. Trey Tucker,
He's the
8.
only one from the Raiders that's been consistent, right? Jacoby.
Oh, yeah. 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 He's the only one out of anybody. Josh Jacobs, out of anybody. And they're finally using Michael Mayer. Last week he did, he had some targets, and then this week he did also. So he had 12 fantasy points. So they're finally using
Yeah.
the tight end. But Jacoby Myers the only one. I mean, Devontae Adams, you got to play him if he's on your team. But for like FanDuel and DraftKings, like Jacoby Myers, Devontae when he's healthy. But yeah, I mean, Josh Jacobs hasn't been nothing worth your money at all. So that's
Exactly.
pretty much for that game.
Yeah, so much for that game. Detroit and Tampa Bay, 20-6. Detroit is looking better and better. The funny thing is, I saw a show and they were saying, yeah, Detroit's a legit Super Bowl contender. I can't, it just sounds funny, but they've really been playing good ball. And we both said it. They're kind of flying under that radar too. They're 5-1, quietly 5-1, and they're a good team. And like you always say, that that defense is feisty. That defense is, and that defense is, man. They went on the road. They shut down Baker Mayfield. He didn't have a touchdown, 206 yards passing. Rashard White is who I thought he was going to be. I kept hearing all this hype coming into the season about Rashard White, Rashard White, Rashard White, Rashard White. Everyone 7 for 26. Now he may get better as the season goes on. I understand that, but he's a bad start to a season. And I've been waiting for Chris Godwin to get going because it auto drafted him for me in the league that my stuff froze up. And he's still not going. 6 receptions, 77 yards is better though. That's much, much better. St. Brown had a big game, 12 receptions, 124 yards, touchdown. Craig Reynolds, man. Look, Montgomery got hurt, and that's the big story here. Montgomery's hurt, and we don't know exactly when he's going to be back. But if they're relying on Craig Reynolds, if this is any kind of showing, and I know that Tampa Bay's defense, their run defense, is pretty good. It's a pretty stout defense. 10 carries, 15 yards. Sheesh, bro. Dang, bro. Like we say, well, we can get out there and get,
Yeah, I'll get 15 yards and 5 carries,
right?
man. Come on.
Exactly. So, bro, what was up with this game?
Detroit handled them. I mean, it wasn't big scoring. I thought it was going to be a big scoring game. I thought Detroit was going to win, but I thought it was going to be in the 40s, but not even close. Tampa Bay never got it going. Baker had 7 fantasy points. Rashad White, yeah, really bad, 6. Chris Godwin, 13. Mike Evans, slow day with 8. Cade Otton, 2 points. Jared Goff had a great game, man. 25 fantasy points, 44 passing attempts. Once Montgomery went down, Reynolds came in, nothing there. I mean, nothing. And Gibbs, he is practice. I think he did go back to practice. So
Maybe
Gibbs is
it's his
gonna,
time.
yeah. So Gibbs gonna have to start. So Amon-Ra St. Brown went off 33 fantasy points, come back from injury. Jamison Williams got his first touchdown this year, 13 fantasy points. Josh Reynolds had 8, and Sam Laporta 7.
Yeah, Montgomery hurt his ribs in this game, and there's no timetable on him. He was absent from the walkthrough today, which is not good, bro. When you can't make a walkthrough, you must be in a lot of pain, or they're just really trying to rehab him or what have you. But once we know more about Montgomery, we'll let you know because he is a big part of a lot of people's teams right now. He's been just killing it, so but the Lions, they have thrust themselves right into the best team in the NFC conversation. And usually a team that if they do this, you're like, yeah, they're 5-1, but everything I'm seeing from the Lions, they look legit, man. They have a defense that travels. Their offense could score with anyone on any given Sunday. But Montgomery going out is huge. That's a huge hit for him. It really is. They'll have to figure that out, and maybe Gibbs will get going. All right. The next game is the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. 26-9. We thought the Rams would get it done, and they did get it done. Stafford just looks like he's a manager these days. He's a manager, not like the old gunslinger that he used to be. 226 yards and a touchdown. Kieran Williams had a big game, but he got hurt. 20 carries, 158 yards, and a touchdown. He was having a really good game, man. So we'll see how that affects them moving forward. And Cooper Kupp, 2 games in, 2 games down, doing his thing. 7 receptions, 148 yards, got in the end zone for the first time of the year. He's looking really good, and so he looked like he tweaked his leg or something in one play, and everyone's kind of a
Yeah.
little nervous,
Mhm.
but he seemed to be okay. So if you were fortunate enough to get him, that's he's back. Looks like the old Cooper Cup. On the other side, Josh Dobbs led them in passing, 235 yards passing, interception, and in rushing, 7 carries, 47 yards. This is another team. Until Connor gets back, you just have to fade that backfield. You just do
Mhm.
Demarcon,
DeMarcado.
Demarcado. You can't, Ingram. No, you just can't. You have to fade the backfield. Mike Wilson, 3 receptions, 62 yards. Yeah. So Kieran Williams on his injury, it's kind of unfortunate. It's an ankle. I don't know if it's high. They don't say if it's high or low. I haven't heard yet if it's a high ankle sprain or anything.
I know he's out though because they just signed Daryl Henderson to the practice squad today.
Yeah, they're saying he won't play this Sunday, and Henderson knows the offense because he's been with them for a while. What was your take?
Yeah, the Cardinals kept it close till halftime. I think it was 9-6. It was a good game. I mean, they kept it really close. Cardinals did. I was like, oh man, like you said, the Rams. They're like slinging it one day. Both of Nakua and Cup's going crazy, and then the next week against the Cardinals, you thought they would go off at home. Nothing, nothing really exciting. Dobbs 12 fantasy points. Keontae Ingram led the backfield with 7. Michael Wilson 9. Marquise Brown had this is one of his first slow weeks all year, 7. And Trey McBride had 10. He outperformed Ertz this week. Stafford, he just had 13. Williams had 24 fantasy points. That was good for them. And then Cooper Cup 30 and Nakua 6. Not his,
Yeah.
and then Higbee's been having a past couple games been really slow for him too. He only had 3. Yeah, that game. I mean, we thought the Rams were going to win, and they did, but they didn't win as I thought they would. But at the end of the game, they pretty much dominated. And then Kyler Murray, they just took him off the PUP, the pup list today, so he's practicing. He practices today.
Well, maybe they'll bring him back. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
Puka's worst game of the season, and we could see a few more games like this with Puka now that Cup is really getting entrenched in his role because Puka literally took Cup's role. Those routes that Cup runs, that's what Puka was running. So, yeah. Zach Evans might be a name to look at on the waiver wire. He's supposed to
Yeah.
be in line to get a lot of the carries with Kieran Williams, being out. So, Zach Evans, I'm not saying to go run out and grab him. I'm just saying he's probably going to be the next man up. And maybe you'll find some lightning in a bottle, So, be on the lookout for Zach Evans. The next game on the slate was this is a pretty good game. I don't understand this game. This game cost me in one of my leagues. I scored 191 points, and me and the dude, we were just going at it. And then all of a sudden, I did something, and I turned around, and the Jets are scoring a touchdown. Eagles, Jets. Jets get the win, 20-14. You and I said that this is the kind of game the Jets could, steal. I think we picked the Eagles, but we said, or not unless you, oh no, you said Jets, Jets. Yes, you did. You were all over it, boy.
Just had a feeling. Just had a feeling.
Right? So it was the undefeateds were going down this week, and you had a
Yeah.
feeling on both of them. It's hard to pick
Both
against
of
your
'em.
own team, but
Yeah.
yeah. So the Jets are right back in this thing, man. 3-3.
Mhm.
You have Rodgers throwing before the game. He's on the field
Yeah.
throwing. And so the hype train is starting to pump up. Zach Wilson, 186 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions though. He's not turned it over in this game, which is good. Brees Hall, 12 carries for only 39 yards, got in the end zone. It's a big touchdown too. His touchdown gave them the lead. And Garrett Wilson still is looking like. Remember we talked about Garrett Wilson earlier in the season? I said I feel like you just always, if you bet on talent, you're going to be okay. And I think that's what we're seeing this year with Garrett Wilson. Not in the ideal situation, not with the ideal quarterback, but his numbers are still very, very serviceable. And A.J. Brown did his thing, 7 receptions, 131, didn't get in the end zone. Jalen Hurts led the team in rushing yards, 47 yards with the touchdown, but 3 interceptions, man. Threw for 280 yards, but threw 3 interceptions and a critical one. Who throws an interception on 3rd and 9 with 2 minutes left? I thought their time management at the end of the game was just trash. The way they did that whole thing and to throw that interception at that time, man, you have the game in your hand. You just have to run out the clock. And you're 6-0. You're the only team standing. What was your take on the game?
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. Just like you said you turn your head. I did too. I all of a sudden I look and it says Brees Hall running in for touchdown. I was like, "Whoa, what?
Right?
What? Philly just had the ball. What just happened right now?" Then I went back and looked. It was like, what a dumb. Serrani. Good for him. Honestly, good. I'm glad the Jets won. I'm glad. Jalen Hurts 22 fantasy points. Swift really slow game on the run, on the rush, but he did have a lot. He had 10 targets on the receiving. 18 fantasy points. AJ Brown off again, 23. Devontae just really slow lately. I don't know. He had 11 targets though, so five. He had 9 fantasy points. Goddard, all right, he had 9 fantasy points. Zach Wilson, 10 fantasy points. Brees Hall had a good. Well, I mean, I'm not saying great game, but he had a good game on receiving. He had 54 yards. He had 20 fantasy points. Garrett Wilson, 17, and Tyler Conklin, 5. Yeah, the Jets, they just hung in there.
Yeah.
Philly was winning all game. The Jets
Yep.
hung in there and just took it, and they had their
Yep.
2 best corners out, Sauce, and they had, DJ Reed out, so they just hung in there, man. They did what their defense turned up at the second half, and they won that game, man. Good for them.
It's the culture, man. It's that defensive
Mhm.
mindset. And we said if they want to stay in this thing, they could win. They could still be good with that defense and a running game. They could, they just need a manager to be a quarterback of that team. Their defense is going to have to carry them, and it is, man. I'm glad for them. Glad they got that win. Isn't it kind of seeming like the number twos? For me, it just seems like the number twos are not getting
No.
big games this year, like Waddle, Smith.
Higgins.
It's kind of crazy.
T. Higgins.
Yeah, Higgins. Yeah, he's been kind of hurt, but yeah, the number twos just aren't doing it. Okay, next game, New York Giants and Buffalo Bills. Kind of an interesting game. 14-9. Buffalo comes away with the win. Really close game. I think it surprised everyone. It was the Sunday night game. And I think this game kind of surprised everyone. Josh Allen had 169 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, 19 for 30. You had James Cook, 14 carries for 71 yards, didn't find the end zone. And Stephon Diggs, 10 receptions, 100 yards. Once again, Stephon Diggs is looking good, out there doing his thing. And on the other side, Tyrod Taylor led had 200 yards passing for the Giants. Saquon Barkley had 24 carries for 93 yards, which isn't bad. It's not bad. 93 yards. How can I complain about that? But for Saquon, with that amount of carries, you expect a little bit more. But hey, 93, I can't, we're really splitting hairs here. We're complaining about that. And then Slayton led them in receiving yards with 69 yards. Tough fought game. A lot of defense. It kind of surprised me. I thought Allen and Diggs are going to really start rolling, but Allen had a tough time, man. They were kind of on him a little bit, kind of flustered him a little bit. And yeah, it just turned out that they squeaked by. But sometimes you win these ugly games. They're 4-2. Buffalo's 4-2. The Giants are 1-5. What was your take on it?
I was surprised. I started watching it and I changed it and I went back to it and it was like, oh man, like whoa, what's the score right now? You know what I mean? Like the Bills didn't score a touchdown until the second half.
Right.
They didn't score anything until the second half. It was unreal to me. You know, and that tells me something's going on with the Bills too, man. I don't know what it is. It's just something that's not clicking. I mean, I know their defense didn't do too bad. I know they have a lot of guys hurt on the defense, but it's just something's not clicking with their offense. They could be a lot better. They could be a lot better. Their offense can. I mean, Josh Allen and Diggs, but Tyrod Taylor not too bad. I mean, well, not too good either. But 10 fantasy points. Saquon, the way he was running, I thought he had 200 yards, man. That boy was running.
Right?
That boy was running. He had 13 fantasy points after out of all that. Wandell Robinson had 14 fantasy points. Darius Slayton had 10. Waller had 9 fantasy points on 7 targets. Josh Allen really slowed the game, 14 fantasy points. James Cook, he had 7. He had 71 yards, but he's hasn't been looking that great either the last 2 weeks. Latavius Murray had 4 fantasy points. He had 12 carries. So Stephon Diggs 23, and their tight end not Quentin Morris 8. He had that touchdown at the end of the game. Kincaid didn't even play, and Dawson Knox had 4. Yeah, we knew the Bills were going to win, but I thought they were going to win by a lot more. But the Giants gave them a little fight. But the Giants are in trouble. The Giants are they're in trouble, man. They should just tank for the first pick or something. I mean, they do not look good at all. They don't look like a good team, man. I mean, I would trade Saquon. I would try to. I heard a rumor about Saquon getting traded to the Ravens.
Yeah, the Giants don't look good. I don't know, man. That game surprised me. The Bills didn't score till the fourth quarter, bro. The fourth quarter. That's crazy.
Yes, sir.
That is crazy. And 2 touchdowns did it though, because all the Giants can do is kick field goals
Mhm.
in that particular game. Yeah, ugly game. It just it just did not look too good. It wasn't a very exciting game. And the last game on the slate, and then I want to touch on offenses real quick after we finish this last game of the slate. Dallas 20, the Chargers 17. So Dak Prescott is 20 for 31, 272 yards and a touchdown. And he also led them in rushing yards with 40 rushing yards and a touchdown. And CeeDee Lamb, 7 receptions, 117 yards. So Squeaky gets he got some love here. He didn't get the end zone.
Mhm.
And on the other side, Herbert,
Yep.
227 yards, 2 touchdowns and 1 pick. It was a big pick too. And 14 carries for 27 yards in his first game back. But you're going against a tough run defense. So Eckler, we'll see. And they use Eckler more in the passing game anyway. Keenan Allen, 7 receptions, 85 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, man, this game, we thought that, I thought Dallas would win. I think you had the Chargers in this one,
Mhm.
Kellen Moore and the whole deal. It looked like Kellen Moore was really in the defensive coordinator's ear because it was a close game, man. I mean, it was very close up until the fourth quarter. The Cowboys got 10 points in the
Yep.
fourth quarter to finally get the
Yep.
win.
Yep.
But I don't know what's going on with Tony Pollard now. Right now might be a time to sell. If I don't know if this offense is really working with Dallas, and I don't know if Tony Pollard. Some guys, man, when they're the number 2, they have these big years, and everyone's like, "Oh, they'll be great." And Tony Pollard was a second round pick in most redraft leagues. He's not performing like that at all this season. I have Tony Pollard in one of my leagues, and he's making me nervous. I'm thinking about selling him, bro. I hate to because I know how good he can be, but in this offense, that's always with Kellen Moore. Now this offense with McCarthy, I don't know, if he's going to thrive in it. He makes me a little nervous. What was your take on the game?
I thought they would have scored a little more. I thought it was gonna be a little more scoring game. I thought the Chargers were gonna squeak it out. Both teams were playing, they're playing good football. I just think I didn't think Dallas was playing as I didn't think Dallas was gonna win. I mean, just watching the game too, like I just that they still, Dak was trying to do everything by himself. He tried and tried, and he did. I mean, he did a lot of it, but I just was just seeing like, man, the Chargers could easily win this game, but it didn't happen. I mean, their defense stepped up in the fourth quarter. So Herbert, he had 20 fantasy points. Austin Eckler, slow night. I thought he would have been little bit better, with his passing,
Yeah.
but he had 10. Keenan Allen, he had a great game. 11 targets, 21 fantasy points. Joshua Palmer, 10. Quentin Johnson, not one. There's 2 targets, nothing. I don't know what's going on. I mean, nothing at all. Just
Yeah, like
nothing.
they don't know how to use them
Uh,
or something.
Exactly, nothing at all. Jared Everett, he had 10.
Yeah.
Dak had a great game, man, 24 fantasy points.
Mhm. It's funny because you didn't hear much from Micah Parsons until the very end of the game when he got a clutch sack. He really
Yep,
came through in that moment, but he
yep,
looked kinda down. They would show him on the sideline.
yeah,
He looked like he was kinda just thinking and kinda pissed because
yeah,
maybe the Niners revealed to the league the formula on this guy. Chip him up. Just hit him on every
yeah.
freaking play, you know?
Yeah, that's what I mean. He didn't I mean, they didn't look that great at all until that last series. They didn't look like the Dallas defense everybody talked about to that last series
No,
at
they did
all.
not. Not at all.
CeeDee Lamb, 21 fantasy points. Brandon Cooks finally, for 36 yards, 15 fantasy points. Jake Ferguson, slow night, 2 fantasy points. Um, yeah, Tony Pollard, I asked you that question last week about would you just, I think Tony Pollard, trade Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
And
You still gonna give me Breeze
or
for Pollard?
no.
That's what you No, bro, you said it was on the air,
Yeah.
bro. I got it on tape.
Well, that was last week. Bro, it's all that was last week, homie. Big if. Uh, Tony Pollard, I mean, even if you want Tony Pollard, I mean, you love Tony Pollard, you might be able to get him for the cheap. So, yeah, I mean, I said this last week, man. Trade Tony Pollard.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, sometimes when you're the number one, like Lonnie said, last year he was number two, but when you're the number one and you have all that on your shoulders, it can be a lot on you.
Yep.
So, he does not look like the Tony Pollard from last year. Not even close. Doesn't even look like speed wise, nothing. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, Dallas won the game, and good for them.
Yep, you're right. Um, yeah, so that wraps up our recap of all the week 6 games. Once again, kind of uneventful, kind of disappointing was week 6. And it kind of makes me wonder what the hell's going on with offenses. Are defenses getting that much better? Or all these offensive coordinators just trying to get too cute? Or what the hell is it? Because how come Mike McDaniel could figure it out? Well, of the 7 fastest players in the NFL, I thought I heard a stat. I think 5 of them are on his team. On the Dolphins. Or it could be all 7 of them are on the Dolphins, but it's something crazy like that. He really utilizes the speed aspect, but he schemes it up, man. And that's what I thought I was seeing from O'Connell last year, but this year I'm not seeing that. And this is before JJ got hurt. The Vikings still weren't scoring like we expect them to score. The Chargers, same thing. They should have a high-powered offense. And I know Eckler was hurt, so that's going to, mess them up a little bit, but they still don't look like this high-powered offensive team. And the Chiefs, we've said it before, their personnel has really messed with them though. I get that. Uh Cincinnati, they're not scoring like they were. Either the defenses are really getting better or the offenses are getting worse or a combination. But I don't know. It makes it difficult for fantasy football because you look at your lineup, whether it's redraft or daily, and you're thinking, hey, that's a good, I got a team. Here we go. Let's go. And then you're like, what? 2 points? How the hell did Pollard get 2 points? That kind of thing. Like big names are only scoring like under 10 points. That's bust to me. So I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, Philly hasn't got going.
Nope.
Buffalo hasn't got going at all.
Nope.
Philly hasn't got going. I mean, Buffalo had one game that they went off,
Yep.
and Philly. Me and you've been talking about Philly every week. Like they have not. The Chargers have not at all,
The Niners
and
have
even the
looked good.
Chiefs.
The Niners have looked good other
Yeah,
than last week.
yeah. The Niners have. Yeah, the Niners have, but the Chargers either. The Chargers were high fire, man. The Chargers were scoring 30 points a game.
Yep.
Miami and even the Chiefs. The Chiefs aren't either. What
Nope.
they score this week? 19. Chiefs at all.
Yeah.
So you're right. I don't know what's up with the offenses this year. I don't know if the defense schemes better. I don't know. I have no clue. Yeah, this is like the toughest year for FanDuel and DraftKings for sure for me.
For
It's
sure.
unreal.
It is. It is. I think I'm gonna go celibate and celibate, not play anymore.
No, you're not.
Hey, so we have a game coming up. The Thursday night game is the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New Orleans Saints, and it is going to be on Prime Video. The Jaguars are 4-2, and the Saints are 3-3. I'm surprised the Saints are 3-3. They start off 2-0, I believe, right? The Saints, they're 2-0, and so they're back, I guess, where I think they should be at 500. Um, this game is in New Orleans, and neither one of these teams have looked great. Jacksonville has just been getting it done. Uh, I expect to see ETN's numbers kind of come down a little bit in this game because the Saints have a pretty good run defense and a pretty good pass defense, to be honest, against receivers. I don't know what really to expect. Olave's, for the season, 32 receptions, 414 yards, and only one touchdown. So they really need to get him going. Getting Alvin Kamara back has really helped the Saints. 52 carries so far, 199 yards, and one touchdown. So he's not getting a lot of yards, but he's making an impact in the game, in the passing, and just his presence there, I think, has really helped settle him down. And Derek Carr seems like his shoulder's getting better. And if that's the case, he should be okay. Michael Thomas has looked good this year. A wide receiver 3, 4, fringe wide receiver 3, a flex kind of play. Christian Kirk has led the Jaguars in receiving, and Calvin Ridley. I saw a TikTok before the season started, and the TikTok was like, "This guy has never finished, higher than wide receiver. I don't know what it was, 24 or 14 or something like that. And why would you think he's going to finish that this year?" And it's kind of true. Maybe Ridley is who we thought he was. Maybe he is just because he was never a number one anywhere he's been. He played under Julio Jones. Julio was in Atlanta and Ridley was behind Julio. Julio left and Ridley was the number one a little
Matt
bit
Ryan.
there, but he had one really good season, but still wasn't a first round or second round pick season. This year he went in like the third, but they need to get Ridley going and Kirk. You know, this game should be a close game. I expect it to be kind of low scoring. Not sure who I like in it. Really, I'm not sure who I like. I'm going to go with the Jaguars, though. What's your take?
Yeah, I seen that Jamal Williams has a chance to suit up tomorrow. I don't know if he is still. But, Kamara's still leading it. Kendra Miller, they throw him in there here and there, and he has some speed too. But Jacksonville has a good run defense, and just some games you don't know what you're getting. You're going to get with Jacksonville either. At all really. So yeah, it's a tough game for me, man. I see Olave having a good game. It seems like Carr's arms, a lot better. He's throwing it, you know, uh, deep down the field, last game. So if Lawrence doesn't play, I know Beathard could manage a game. He could sit in there and manage the game. But I, if Lawrence doesn't play, I could see the Saints squeezing this one out. And like you said, yeah, Ridley's not showing what we all thought.
Yeah,
The first game he came out and went off, and then we're okay, that's the guy we thought, and then nothing really since, right?
yeah, yeah. I agree.
So Etienne Junior's been doing great. I mean, he's been getting his touchdowns, and he's been doing his. But the Saints are a little tricky defense too, man.
Mm-hmm.
The Saints haven't been too bad on defense, but if Trevor Lawrence plays, I say Jaguars are going to win this game. If they don't, it's going to be tough. Like I said, Beathard could keep it going, but they're playing in New Orleans, right?
Yep.
Fantasy wise, you got to play Kamara, play Olave, play Etienne Jr., and play Kirk,
Yeah.
and play play Ingram.
But if Lawrence doesn't play, it's kind of hard to go with those receivers, right?
If Lawrence doesn't play, I wouldn't play one of the receivers. I would play Ingram though. I would play the tight end
Yeah.
because
Yeah, because Beathard might lean on him a little bit.
and I will play Etienne Jr. But yep, that's what I got. It's hard when their starting quarterback is questionable and they're not saying anything. Like not questionable is going to play. He's questionable and that's it.
Yeah. And a need for a quarterback could be a big issue, man. Big issue. mobility issue, and you have to.
He is he is optimistic that he'll play after suffering a knee injury this past Sunday and being diagnosed with a sprain. However, he was listed as questionable on Wednesday's injury report. So that's all we got. I mean, they didn't even say if he practiced today or not. So, and I know Zay Jones is going to be out of this game also.
Yeah, so that can open some things up for Ridley, which it shouldn't have to, but it sounds like it could. But all right, so there's the Thursday night preview, and that's the show. Yeah, get your lineup set. We will have we'll do our Friday night show, and it'll be up on Saturday morning for you, and we'll get you all ready and get you set for the week 7 games. And we're going to talk about a game that is dear and near to our hearts, both of our hearts. This might be the next episode. You really have to tune in, because usually Jake and I are very cordial with each other, but I might get a hair up my ass and just kind of go off on his Niners and talk about how my Vikings are going to kick their ass. But maybe not. Well, you guys will just have to tune in to see.
Kirk Cousins throwing lollipops all game. Let's go.
I'm Lonnie. He is Jake. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.